On Patrol with the Suffolk County PBA is a dynamic podcast that brings together some of the most influential voices in the nation.
From union leaders and elected officials to law enforcement experts who explore the pressing issues shaping America.
Through thought-provoking conversations, we empower listeners to think critically about law enforcement, political policy, and the future of our society.
Tune in to On Patrol with the Suffolk County PBA. Content warning. On May 11th, 2023, Police Officer LaFauci observed Janelle Funderburk, a wanted male, walking along a public roadway. Police Officer LaFauci attempted to arrest Janelle Funderburk when a foot pursuit ensued. As P.O. LaFauci was gaining on him, Janelle Funderburk attempted to murder P.O. LaFauci by shooting him twice. The following video footage is from P.O. LaFauci's body-worn camera. Viewer discretion is advised.
Yo, Suffolk Police! You see head!
Welcome to another episode of On Patrol with the Suffolk PBA. I'm CJ Hutter, the treasurer of the PBA.
I'm Tanner Brandemore, the Sergeant at Arms of the PBA.
And joining us today, we have Police Officer Mike LaFauci. Mike is a 6th Precinct Police Officer. And just tell us a little bit about yourself and your career, and then we'll get into our little conversation about what brings you here today.
All right. Well, I started the academy in 2016, October. Went through the 7 months of the academy, came out in patrol, 6th Precinct, did that for a couple of years. I was 619 operator for a little bit. From there, I was moved to the 620 command where, I was in the community support unit for a little bit. Did that for about a year, and then I was moved to the anti-crime unit, and that's where I am today and where this incident and what we're going to talk about today happens.
Right. So, you started off in the 619 car. That's a pretty busy car, right? In the 6th Precinct?
Yeah, it covers, it's actually one of the bigger sectors in the precinct. It was, covers Medford and Yaphank. It bordered like the 617 car, which covered like Gordon Heights and Coram. So It was definitely a very busy car.
Right. And then after patrol, you eventually work your way into CSU, and then onto the anti-crime team, which is, you do investigative work, you do some plainclothes work where you're basically looking for violent criminals.
Yeah, the big thing what we did all the time was it was a lot of investigations in narcotics and firearms. That's kind of what we did. A lot of gangs and all the bloods and everything within Coram and all the different sets. We, they're big into dealing drugs and doing all the crimes.
Right, yeah. The drug trade really fuels a lot of the crime we deal with in Suffolk County. A lot of the violent crime ultimately comes back to who's trying to deal what drugs in what area and, kind of infringing on each other's turf, right? You mentioned there's gangs there, the Bloods in particular. Yeah,
so again, you got all different sets. Everyone's trying to be top dog and selling the drugs. So That's kind of what we looked into.
How familiar with these guys were you with all these people that you were dealing with in the crime unit and the anti-crime as a patrol officer?
I was definitely familiar with them, but I definitely became more familiar when I joined anti-crime because that's what we did. We investigated all these guys. It was more in patrol. Again, I wasn't tied to the radio as much. So in patrol, you're answering 911 calls, and then on the side, you're trying to do your own little investigations to make a name for yourself.
Right. So you're doing all these drug investigations. A lot of them are fueled with violent crime. So the real reason why you're in here today and what we really want to talk to you about was an incident that occurred on May 11th of 2023. And the investigation that you were performing on that date during that period of time. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what was going on at that time? What and who were you investigating?
All right. So on May 11th of 2023, I was investigating a suspect named Janelle Funderburk. He was wanted for an armed robbery 2 days prior of 2 females. So on the date of May 11th, I was patrolling around in an unmarked vehicle, plainclothes in the Gordon Heights Coram area.
Right, and the plainclothes and unmarked is typical for your work, so you can blend in better.
Yeah, it's to try to more blend in. You're still out there patrolling, but you're less noticeable.
Right.
So on that day, I observed Janelle Funderburk walking down Northfleet Lane in Coram, walking over to another acquaintance's house, but it wasn't his own house. So at that point, I went into the house. I set up down the block to kind of wait for him to get out of the house. In that meantime, I was calling my supervisor and a couple of guys to try helping me out here to
Making sure other guys know you got eyes on the bad guy.
Yep. Make sure, that we got all of our angles covered so we can get this guy. This guy's wanted for an armed robbery. It's, not a good dude. He's been locked up in the past for firearms, guns, running from the police. Like there's a ton of different
a real
charges.
bad guy, not just a one-time felon, a guy who's basically been living a life of crime.
Yeah, him, his family, everybody. So I wait about probably about like 12:40, 12:45 as she exits the home. That's when I start approaching an unmarked car, and I get out of the car, identify myself, and then a small foot chase pursues, and then that's when I would shot twice.
You were expecting him to run, I'm guessing? You weren't expecting him to...
Yeah, none of these guys usually stop.
Right.
They're usually pretty quick to run or try evading police. I mean, it's like a little game of cops and robbers. Like my job's to catch you, their job's to get away, and that's, kind of their job.
Yeah, not many of them just come into custody willingly. It's been ingrained in them to just kind of resist, try to run, and try to escape.
Yeah, no, most arrests, we try, in our unit, we worked with like 3 or 4 different cars. So we worked very well to make sure these guys couldn't run and everyone's safe. That's the biggest thing is safety with all these arrests, even involving, guns and drugs and everything. The goal is safety. So like we would wait for a prime opportunity. For example, like you're wanted or we observed you do something. We're going to wait for you to be in your most vulnerable moment.
Right.
We would, you would park your car, you go walk into 7-Eleven. Now there's 5 or 6 of us following you in the 7-Eleven. Like that's how we did it to make sure like we were safe. We knew we got you. You had no way out.
Right. You're doing a dangerous job. You're going after guys that pose a significant amount of danger towards you. There's heavy risk involved, but you're going to do it as safely as possible, right? You're never going to eliminate all risk, but you're going to do whatever you can to mitigate the risk that is there. Yeah,
there's no getting rid of risk within the job, but we do try to minimize it to the best of our ability. Because we all want to go home safe. We all want to get home to our families. All of us have, most of us have kids, wives, husbands at home, moms, dads. You want to get home to your family.
It doesn't matter how strong or how much training you have. It's always better to have multiple officers there with you. Like you said, you called for backup before you saw him going to the house because you were by yourself, correct?
Yeah, no, I was by myself. So again, I'm going to call for backup. Yeah, it doesn't matter how fast you are, how strong you are, how much knowledge you have. If you got jits, you do boxing, you run track, you work out, you still, more people, the better. You have power in numbers. That comes down to the bottom line.
Power in numbers. You always want to be as prepared as possible. There is power in numbers. You want more sets of hands. Make it as, like I said, mitigate the risk as best as you can in a risky, life-threatening situation.
For sure. You always want to minimize the risk.
Were those units on scene when you were just...
Yeah, to my knowledge, again, I was set up on Northfleet Lane. I believe my supervisor at the time was set up at the other end of Homestead. He lived on Homestead Drive. So I think he was set up all the way at the end of Homestead. And I believe we had a marked unit somewhere over on Teller out of the,
so you had like a perimeter setup, basically.
Kind of a small perimeter setup with a couple of guys that we were able to,
put
utilize
together,
in a short period of time.
Right. And this guy was wanted for an armed robbery from a few days prior, right? And what were the circumstances of that case? Because we already know now this is a dangerous guy who's willing to perform an armed robbery. You don't know what else he's capable of. And he's had prior gun charges in the past.
To my knowledge, it was he pulled out a gun on 2 females, I think robbed them of some weed.
Right.
And then I believe he ended up on Instagram messaging one of the girls saying, I would have popped your friend or something like that.
Right. So he's made threats to use the guns too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so what makes this situation unique, and, it's not often cops get shot, right? But this also happened to be the first case in Suffolk County Police Department where a cop getting shot was caught on body camera.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
So, we're showing the body camera footage up to the point where, you're chasing this bad guy and he unexpectedly suddenly turns around and just fires 2 shots at you. Yeah. What's going through your mind at that point?
Well, before it, I again, as a police officer, obviously any bad thing can happen to you at any point, but complacency is definitely, I would say, a pretty big
right. You never want to be complacent. You always want to take everything into account. You don't ever want to be complacent.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the problem is, again, how many arrests we've made and all the things we do, you do become complacent because nothing all those years you do things. If nothing bad happens, you're like, oh, like nothing's going to happen to me, like any person, anything. I'm not going to get into a car accident, say, or anything.
Right.
And that's definitely something that you shouldn't do because anything can happen. And I'm definitely a prime example of.
Right. I mean, you're running towards that risk.
Yeah.
Right. So now, was there, besides knowing that he had possession of guns in the past and, as recently as just a couple days prior, when you exit your car and you identify yourself as a police officer and you're telling him, police don't move, police stop running.
Yeah.
Was there any indication prior to him just suddenly turning around and firing 2 shots that he was armed at that moment?
No, I had no clue, and I probably would have treated the situation a little differently. Yes, I knew he was wanted for an armed robbery, but I didn't see a gun when I saw him the first time. I didn't see a gun when I got out of the car, so I didn't think he had the gun on him
at that particular moment.
That particular time. And even if he did have it and I missed it, which obviously he did have it and I missed it, I never would have thought he would shoot at the police. That's just like, I feel like there's like rules to the game. Like as police officers, we have to follow the rules.
Right.
We can't just shoot innocent people. And it's the same thing with the perps. I feel like that's kind of you just don't shoot at the cops for no reason.
Right. And you're out there just trying to protect the public, trying to do your job, get this dangerous menace, off the streets. And, all of a sudden you're faced with your life and death situation.
Yeah, no, it's definitely life flashed before my eyes there. Yeah, it was.
And you guys are both running, and then all of a sudden he just turns around. It's so quick. On body cam, it's even hard to see him like turn around and do that, but it happens so quickly. So I can only imagine what you were going through in that moment.
Yeah, definitely. My brain couldn't process even that slight turnaround, him pointing the gun. It's probably the split second. I didn't even know what was going on, and by the time I realized what was going on, the rounds already fired.
Right, and that's one of the things a lot of the police critics don't necessarily understand is, most of the time what we're doing is reacting to the bad guy. We're not the first ones to take action. We're not the first ones to bring the violence to a situation. We're reacting to how they act towards us. So they always have that split second or second advantage on us when it comes to, a bang bang situation, something happening very quick.
Yeah, and I always felt that like drawing your weapon on anyone, even if they're violent or not, takes time away. It takes a hand away. Mm-hmm. Because again, if they don't have a firearm, I can't use my firearm. If they're not giving me a threatening situation, I can't use it. Now I'm taking that time and that seconds to put it away and gives them time to get away or react in a different way that now I can't react to because I'm doing something else.
Right. Now, once you're shot, what do you feel? Is the adrenaline pumping and you don't necessarily feel it right away, or do you feel it instantly?
I saw the gun, heard the shots, I hit the floor, and for probably a good like second or two, or it probably felt like an eternity, mm-hmm. I didn't know what happened. Because I didn't feel it, I guess. It happened, I guess, all the adrenaline and everything like that.
Right.
And then I remember looking down and how I described it, which I don't even know if it was like that, but it just felt, I see blood just gushing out of my leg. And I'm like, uh-oh.
Right. And now this was it one bullet or two that went into your leg and then into your pelvis?
So it was one. So one went through me. So one went into like my upper thigh, through my pelvis and stopped in my buttocks, and that's where the bullet was removed. It kind of went through me on an angle. Right. And the other one kind of just grazed me in my inner leg and through my legs and back. So thankfully,
right.
I wasn't hit twice. I was only.
Yeah, but that first one that went into your leg and into the pelvis, that was life-threatening.
Oh no, for sure. They told me if they tried to do that again, it couldn't happen. And I remember Dr. Voswinkle telling me he has no clue either how well I'm doing and how I'm not like dead. That everything critical was missed between the femoral nerve, the femoral artery, my pelvis, everything. He says as the bullet was traveling, it kind of just turned at all the vital points ever so slightly. Missed everything maybe by like a hair, he says. That's
incredible. That's like a miracle. It's like you're out there doing God's work and a miracle happened to help save your life.
Yeah, no, someone was definitely looking down on me that day because, and I don't want to bring up other topics, but Police Officer Jonathan Diller in the city, he was shot in a very similar way and there was a very different outcome.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. Now, you look down, you see all the blood gushing out. Who was first on scene to help you?
That would definitely be Sean Sullivan.
Sean Sullivan.
He was definitely over there.
And he was one of your partners in anti-crime at the time.
Yeah, he was backfilling at the time. So he was that marked unit we had around the block. And then second was Sergeant David Farrar.
So he would have been in the car with you that day if he wasn't backfilling.
Yeah, no, there was a couple of guys. The whole team was backfilling minus me, and I would have been backfilling that day, but I had court earlier that morning. So if you have court, you can't backfill because then the car's not filled. So yes, if he wasn't backfilling, he would have probably been with me.
Okay.
Right. So as Officer Sullivan and Sergeant Farrar get on scene, they start performing first aid right away. What kind of occurred, if you remember? What were they doing to try to help stop the bleeding, control the bleeding?
When David Farrar came up, he ended up taking his belt off because none of us had tourniquets on us, which is definitely something we should reconsider in the future. He took his belt off, and then Sean applied it to my leg and just kept tightening until we got the blood to stop. And it's definitely very painful, cutting the blood and circulation off to your leg. But
right.
That definitely controlled the bleeding until another marked unit came over and they applied, I think, 2 tourniquets to my leg, if I remember correctly.
Okay. And at some point in time, Kevin Staubitz, who was a Medcat police officer, eventually gets promoted to detective. He was a detective in the 6th at the time. He responds as a Medcat unit and starts performing. Basically, we've talked about in the past, the Medcat guys are like combat medics that the Suffolk Police Department has out on the road. And it's very unique to our job. We're very blessed to have them. And this is another example.
Yeah, no, I definitely owe Kevin my life. I think he's definitely a big reason I'm still here. Because when we were driving to the hospital, maybe it was in the car a minute. I think we just got off the block and he came in, his detective car had his bag and everything needed, jumped in the car, started cutting my clothes off, packing the wound, adjusting the tourniquets, and just making sure that I'm okay.
Right. And that's not the first time that Kevin's been involved in saving another cop's life. He was there when Timmy Thrain got hit by the Dewey driver out on the road. So Kevin Staubitz the work he's done through Medcat has been, you can't put a price on that. It's been invaluable to the Suffolk County Police Department and to the residents of Suffolk County too.
Yeah, no, for sure. He definitely probably needs a raise.
Yeah. So, Kevin jumps on the ambulance with you. He does, whatever he does to help control the bleeding. I think he applies another tourniquet, and I think he used Quick Clot too.
Yeah, he definitely packed doing. I remember him pushing something, and I didn't really feel what was going on. I really didn't know what was going on, but he was working his magic. Yeah.
So you eventually get to the hospital, and at this point, there's 100 cops at the hospital. There's already 100 cops on scene still looking for the bad guy too. Once you arrive to the hospital, do you remember anything at this point, or are you still consciously aware of what's going on around you?
Yeah, for the most part, I was definitely still aware of what was going on. Remember, I was dragged out by, I believe it was hospital staff. It could have been some cops. I'm not too sure on that. I was put on the gurney. I was started to get brought inside. And then I was just looking around because I got my wife and kid at home. So someone's got to tell my wife. And so I ended up finding one of my good friends that I grew up with, Christian Faraka. He ended up being up at the hospital, and I was like, "Hey, you got to call my wife." Mm-hmm. And there was definitely my wife works at Stony Brook. Well, she doesn't work there anymore, but she was an EMT for Stony Brook. So a lot of the guys wheeling me in were EMS people, and I'm looking at them, but I'm not going to give any names, but they didn't want to look. They knew exactly who I was, but they just, I guess, didn't want to look at me because, I guess the situation, they were kind of scared themselves.
Right.
Oh, we know this guy. What do we do?
Right. And even as professionals, I talk about it all the time with cops sometimes. When you're personally involved in something, sometimes you start thinking, less like a cop and more like the neighbor that or the father, the brother, the uncle, the aunt, whatever the sort of relationship is going on, you sometimes get clouded. So you want to stay focused on the job you do. Maybe that's what they were going through at that time.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think everyone was just kind of nervous, didn't know what to do, and it was, again, it hit home. When it happens to someone, it hits home. 100%. If you hear the news, it happened in a different state. A lot of people, hey, that's unfortunate, but it doesn't affect them much. But when it happens at home, it happens to someone it hits a little closer.
Right. So your wife gets that call from a friend of yours. Does somebody give her the ride up to the hospital? Does she just jump in the car and get over there?
So it's actually a funny story. She was bringing my daughter to the ecology center. So I believe when she got the call, I'm not too sure who called. I think a bunch of people, when they started finding out, was just blowing up her phone.
Okay.
But I think she was getting on the on Sunrise from William Floyd Parkway, and got the call from somebody, and they're like, "Oh, we'll come pick you up." But My wife's very tough. She's like, no, I'm okay. Like, I'm driving up there. There's a bunch of people that tried to stop her or I guess intercept her and everything. I think eventually someone did intercept her on Nichols Road and bring her up there and then drove my daughter in my wife's car up there, I believe. But yeah, no, she was just trooping into the hospital by herself.
She has experience with this kind of stuff, being an EMT. And how valuable was that to you to have somebody like that wasn't, and she must have been strong in her own right?
Yeah, no, she definitely helped me out a lot. It was actually kind of funny when, I guess we'll jump a little forward. I had an at-home nurse for one day. My wife is sitting there watching her like clean the wounds and everything like that. And I can just see her stressing out, like sitting like on the stairs away from me. And let's just say that nurse never came back to the house and my wife just took care of me.
Okay. Which is helpful. And honestly, as far as coping with going through this as a spouse, right? Because she's going through it too. You're the one that's shot, but she is going through this. This is her life too. Maybe it helps her cope with the whole situation, being able to be more hands-on with your treatment.
Yeah, no, she definitely liked that she was able to help me. I definitely gave her a few extra gray hairs throughout the whole process. But I know she was definitely kicking herself a little bit when she had to go back to work. She did take a significant amount of time off of work to take care of me.
Right.
So I know she was definitely kicking herself about that, but everything ended up working out.
Right, right. And, she took a significant amount of time off. And that's one of the, and we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but I want to touch on that quick because sometimes we get criticized when we do fundraisers for cops when they're hurt in the line of duty and raise, a substantial amount of money for, a police officer and the family. But what a lot of people don't understand is, maybe the cop is still getting paid, but there's people around him that might be missing out on work, missing out on paychecks, or sometimes there's relatives that fly in from out of state and they need to, they're missing out on work and paychecks, or they're staying in hotel rooms. And it's all part of, your treatment, your recovery. So it still goes to benefiting you, but it helps make it possible.
Yeah, no, for sure. It definitely, the fundraisers definitely do. I think my wife took off like 2-3 months of work. She doesn't have any paid time off, right? Or if she did, it was very little. She burned right through it and that was that. I mean, my mom's helped me greatly, taking off of work, driving me to doctor's appointments, everything like that. So there's definitely a lot of people involved that did have to miss work for me.
Right. And that's a big part of the purpose between why we fundraise for cops. So you're at the hospital, somebody notifies your wife, she eventually shows up. Do you remember what happens next? Are you immediately rolled in for surgery? Do you get to see your wife prior to surgery?
My wife was there when I got brought into, I guess, one of the emergency rooms. She was there shortly after that happened, I remember. I think, if I believe correctly, I guess she's the one that called. I think she ended up calling my dad.
Okay.
To let my parents know because I think my mom wouldn't have taken it that well over the phone. My dad's a very level-headed guy, so she was able to express the information to him, and then they came up to the hospital. So, but no, I do remember them. When my wife got there, she always yelled at me because a lot of times when we did these investigations, we followed people around and everything. I didn't always wear my vest. Very unsafe, very not a smart thing to do, but that's what we did to get the job done. And when she came into the hospital, as she's like laying on me, I kind of whispered in her ear, and I'm like, I wore my vest. It didn't work.
You couldn't resist the urge.
I couldn't. I was conscious enough to be able to say that. And I remember my parents coming in, and then my mom starts crying, so I start crying, and then I remember getting wheeled into surgery, and then I really don't remember much. A lot of guys that were there at the hospital, like, oh, when you got out of surgery, you said this to me, or hey, 2 days later, I was there and I visited you, and all this stuff. Probably my first 3 or 4 days, I don't remember anything.
Right.
I don't know if it was just the trauma, the shock, the drugs I was on. I don't really know, but I definitely don't remember the first few days at all.
Right. And just to be fair, for people that are out there watching too, the reason the vest didn't work is because he was shot below the vest. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's a joke. It's a joke between him and his family. All right. So, you go through surgery. Dr. James Voswinkle works on you, right?
ACEs,
this guy's like Suffolk County's guardian angel.
Yep.
We say it all the time. He's saved more police lives than bulletproof vests.
Yep,
right?
For sure.
So once you get out of, the surgery and the fog that you're in, because you didn't really, remember things the next day or two, what was it like being hospitalized during the recovery?
It's pluses and minuses, I guess. One of my big gripes is I was on a strict liquid diet. I couldn't eat anything.
That's tough.
It was horrible, but the main worry for all that is because where the bullets stopped, it was right on my rectum, and Dr. Voswinkle was worried that if the tissue ends up dying, that I was going to need a colostomy bag.
Okay.
So the goal was not to put substance into my body until we know we're in the clear.
Okay.
And then it was definitely overwhelming for a lot. There was a lot of cops, nurses, everyone in there. So at some points it was definitely overwhelming, but everyone, it was just to show love. And, I'm very grateful to everyone that was there.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, everybody wants to show that you're supported, right? Because even if it's a police officer who never met you personally, they feel like they could be in your shoes. So everybody wants to show you the support. They want you to know you have everybody's backing. Because I think, and I've never been through this, maybe you could clarify, but I think knowing you have that support does help in the recovery.
Oh, it definitely does. It was nice to have all the support and everything, but I'll be honest though, the support does die down. Mm-hmm. In the hospital, there's hundreds of people there all the time. You get that big farewell from the hospital, I guess.
The big walkout.
The big walkout.
Right.
Those are
always
awesome.
covered by the news.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. That's all great. And then, but as some days, weeks, months go by, it all kind of goes away. Right. At some point, it's like, all right, well, at least he's home. He is recovering, whether it be slow and tough. Yep. Right. You're still recovering. I mean, you walk in here with a limp today. Yeah. And this is over 2 years ago. Yeah, just over 2 years ago. Yep. Yep. So, you're still living with it every day. But I think in the back of everybody else's minds, it's like, all right, he's home. He's going to live, right? He's going to be there for his wife and children, right? Because now you have 2 children. Yeah, I have 2. My oldest is 3.5 now. She was 17 months when this happened. Oh, crazy. And my youngest will be 10 months in a few days. So, God bless. Yeah, so, I mean, you're here limping around. What's it like at home with 2 young kids? Because I know, like, I have kids, and when they're at that age, all they want to do is climb on me and play with me all the time. Yeah, it was definitely rough in the beginning. I'll be honest there. It was, I did definitely tell my daughter no to doing a bunch of things in the beginning, and it hurts. I'm sure. It does hurt. But I kind of learned to adapt. So, like, she wants to go run around and play. I'll go outside. I'm going to sit down. Like, you can go run around me, like, type of thing. So there's, like, I still haven't, it's been over 2 years. I still haven't ran around the yard with my daughter. I still haven't, climbed up all these jungle gyms. I was a young guy. I was 27 years old. I was in my peak, I guess you can say. And, that definitely, it affected a lot of things that I couldn't do with my family. There's days I would wake up and I couldn't get out of bed. Right. There was days that I was up all night because the nerve injury pains are very weird. You get a lot of shooting, burning, very uncomfortable pains, and definitely keep me up at night. I couldn't sleep. So like there was a lot of factors that definitely affected my home life. And I'm not big on taking medicine. They sent me home with all sorts of cocktail of stuff, but I'm not the guy to take it. I mean, I've seen too many horror stories with work of people getting addicted to painkillers and everything. So again, going back to getting shot, that'll never happen to me. So my mentality was, hey, this did happen to me. I can't say getting addicted to an opiate's not going to affect me because it very well could, because this happened to me. So, and like you said, at work, we've all seen these situations where good upstanding people in society get into, say, a car accident and they get prescribed painkillers for a back injury from the car accident, and it ends up ruining their lives because all of a sudden they're addicted to these things. No, for sure. So that's why I didn't take it. I just discarded all the bottles if I needed it. Still to this day, I think before I walked in here, I took 2 Tylenol and 2 Advil just to sometimes just what I got to do to get through the day. Right.
We talk a lot about mental health. I think in every episode we touched on it. Yeah. But we talk a lot about the officers in the car every day that go through mental health things. You talked a lot about the physical injuries that you suffered. Yep. Do you mind going into a little bit of like the mental part of that aspect, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I'll go into it a little bit. Definitely, it affected me mentally. I'm seeing someone today about it. But no, you definitely go through a lot of dark times, especially when you're by yourself. I owe it to my daughter. If it wasn't for her, I'm not saying I wouldn't be here today, but she helped me greatly through everything because I had someone that showed me unconditional love and was always there for me when I needed it. When I was just down on myself. Again, when it happened to me, again, I'm 27 years old. I would like to think I was in somewhat of physically good shape.
It's like the prime of your life, 27. You're probably the best shape of your life.
Yep, everything. Going to the gym every day, I was doing good, and now I can't even walk. Now I need a walker to get around. Now I need help taking a shower and all these things. So it definitely it affected me greatly mentally. And again, as I owe it to my daughter. She'll always have that little special place in my heart. I'm not going to pick favorites between my two kids, but she'll probably always have that little closer connection with me because she was there when I needed her the most.
Right. And that I think that's important for people to hear because it humanizes us as police officers as well. Because anybody out there who is a parent can relate to their love for a child and can see how that could be part of your motivation and part of your, desire to recover as best as possible, not just for yourself, but for your babies.
Yeah, no, I thought when I got hurt, I thought a month or two I was going to be back getting after like I was.
Right.
That was my mentality. And then I was like, 6 months. And then like once 6 months rolled around, that's when like things really started like, I guess mentally and physically coming into play that, hey, like I might not be normal, but then definitely for sure, it's my kids. I want to show my kids that like when the going gets tough, you can get through it. I want them to know that, hey, something bad happened to dad. Dad's going to be okay. Dad recovered. Dad's still doing something that he loved to do, which was be a police officer.
That's very admirable.
To show them that, they don't have to give up and they can achieve anything they want to achieve in life. And that's the kind of example I want to, show my kids.
That's a great character lesson. And that's something it's great for your kids to be able to see that in their own father. Because to them, you're a superhero.
Yeah.
You're the guy that they look up to. You are the person that they're going to want to emulate themselves after. And, you have, daughters, maybe their husband is going to be like you, right? They're going to pick somebody like daddy.
Yep.
Right.
That's the goal. I just want them to have, the most opportunity in life and to know that they have it. They supported me, so I'm going to support them throughout their whole life.
Right. Now, and speaking of the mental health, and again, it's not just you going through this. How is your wife doing? How is your wife coping with everything?
Again, it's been a little over 2 years. She's definitely doing a lot better. She, there was a handful of people that did obviously I'm getting reached out to, hey, how you doing? How you feeling? And stuff like that. But there was a handful of people that did reach out to her all the time saying, hey, how you doing? How you feeling? And then she would just, call them on the phone and they would talk a little bit. So definitely, her mental health was probably affected as well, but I think we're in a better place now as time goes on and we work through everything.
Right, and like Tanner said, pretty much every episode we've had, it's come back to mental health at some point in time. So I want to thank you for being brave enough to come up here and actually telling everybody that you are seeing somebody later today to help you work on your mental health. Like you're open about talking about it.
Yeah, no. And again, as a, big macho policeman or a big man, like you don't want to talk about that stuff. And like, I don't need that. And that's very well how I was in the beginning. Hey, I don't need that. I don't need that. A bunch of guys reaching out to me. Hey, we're here to talk, all these things. But I'm like, hey, I don't need that. But then the more you push it away, the more things build up. You realize you do need it. And it is very helpful just to kind of talk to an absolute stranger who's not going to judge you. And you kind of just talk what's on your mind. And I feel it like kind of just relieves you and makes you feel better just to get everything off your chest.
I think there's a lot of strength in that too. I mean, people are on our job, especially, are always saying that like, oh, you shouldn't go see somebody, but you really should because it helps you deal with a lot of the problems that maybe you wouldn't be able to deal with if you didn't go have somebody to help you to kind of sort through what you're going through.
Yeah, I think there's a big stigma with it, and I think there has to be other avenues for help. I mean, for example, like the peer team. Like the peer team reached out to me a handful of times. For me, I wasn't really comfortable talking to someone from the peer team because cops, EMS, and all work fields, everyone kind of talks. Like it's that trust factor for me is hard, especially for something I really don't want to do. I don't want to talk to somebody. So like for a complete stranger to be able to talk to is more comforting. Like I think something that might help benefit the peer team, in my opinion, is we need more agencies involved, in my opinion. So like if you're a Suffolk cop that got severely hurt, I'm hearing from someone from Connecticut that got severely hurt in a similar situation. So I know, like, I can trust them. Like, they're not going to know me. I'm not going to know them. There's going to be no, people talking. Because obviously I know that you're not supposed to say anything, but people do.
But there's still connection to law enforcement is what you're saying. So like
yes. So 100% everyone law enforcement. So I feel like it should be like a United States wide thing of that.
Like a national group.
A national organization. National peer team. There you go. That. So if you're in Suffolk County, you might hear from someone in California, but that guy in California knows exactly what you're going through. Like, hey, he was shot, he was stabbed, he was in a bad car accident, he, had problems with the wife or the husband and stuff like that, that they can relate to what you're talking about, but they're far enough away that you're not going to go see them in a grocery store and feel nervous of, oh, like I talked to them about all this stuff and now I'm uncomfortable. Right. That's my opinion.
And that I'm glad you brought up that opinion, because that's the first time I've heard that opinion, that, you're comfortable talking to police officers, but you wish it was somebody that you don't know.
Yes.
You wish it was somebody who has no connection to you rather than having that direct connection. Because everybody reacts differently. Everybody feels differently. So where some people might prefer a Suffolk cop, some might not. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's opened my eyes to another perspective.
Yeah, no, again, I like that it's a cop. I think that's very important because, again, a lot of people that aren't police officers don't understand what we go through every day. Right. So I like that aspect of it. But the aspect for me, again, it could just be me. There could be other people out there too. I don't know. But I would have rathered more of a random, not someone that's connected to me through the job, can look me up and stuff. Yes, you're not supposed to do any of that stuff. But it makes me more comfortable talking to someone who there's kind of no connection. It's not going to come back to me.
Right. And that makes sense. It's just the first time I'm hearing it. So I'm glad we had that talk.
I'm sure there's plenty of people like you that feel the same way.
Right.
Everybody's different in their own way of getting help. A lot of people don't want to even talk to somebody. But I think every time you open up another avenue to get help, I think it's very useful and very helpful to the people that need it.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. Again, if I got reached out to someone, hey, so-and-so, I'm a state trooper from, Connecticut or something. I've, and back in 2014, I experienced the same thing you experienced. I might be more willing to open up to that person than someone who, is there to help me, who is a police officer, but doesn't know what I'm going through, like exactly to the T.
Right. You want somebody who's walked a mile in your shoes, but there's no personal connection. And it's understandable. It's understandable. Yeah.
So that's why I went the avenue I went. I mean, it was still through the recommendations of the Suffolk County PBA and everything like that. But that's why I went personally that avenue instead of this avenue.
Right. Well, that's interesting. Now, this is all going on, right? You're home from the hospital, but we still have a bad guy that eventually gets locked up by other cops that respond to the scene.
Yep.
And, he's waiting for his court date at the time. You still have to go through a trial with this guy.
Yep.
So what was that like? What was it like where you're finally at that point where, all right, you're home, you're starting to recover, but now we got to start preparing for a criminal trial? Yeah,
no, it definitely probably took me a step backwards or two, just because, again, I'm trying to move forward from all this, right. And then I'm starting to get a little better, and then now I have to prepare for a trial. Meet with the ADAs and look over body camera footage and prepare, my statements and everything like that, and get prepared for trial. So it definitely got the nerves going a little, because I'm not one to want to talk in front of people and talk and everything like that.
Right. And it definitely adds a different perspective to it, because now you're a victim of an attempted murder, not just an arresting police officer. Yeah, no,
I've been to grand jury plenty of times, hearings, traffic court, all that stuff. That never really rattled my cage. But now that I'm the victim here, it definitely shook me up a little bit. But we ended up doing a plea deal.
Right. And, in the end, it took well over a year to finally be finalized, right? The plea deal?
Yep, just over a year.
Yep. And he eventually got agreed to 25 years to life.
Yep.
And, I assume, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I assume you're satisfied with that sort of arrangement, that at least he's going to be away for a long time at the least.
Yeah, am I satisfied with it? Yeah, I agree to it. So obviously I'm satisfied with it. Obviously I wish it was more time.
Right.
I wish he would, never see the light of day again, to be honest. But no, we agreed to that. So it definitely it gave closure. It to not have to put myself or my family through a trial. It was worth it. Mm-hmm. Could have you gotten more time? For sure. Could have you gotten less time? For sure. You never know how the court system is going to work. But taking the plea, I think it just benefited all parties on my side to just not have to go through that pain again.
Right. And that's something a lot of the public doesn't necessarily understand either. Once you're victimized of a crime, to have to relive it in a way where you have to testify against it, and not every time you testify is it going to be, quote unquote, a friendly testimony where it's the prosecutor who's on your side. There's a defense attorney on the other side too, who's going to try to rip apart your testimony.
Yeah, no, we definitely prefer, again, the prosecution, also the defense. Yeah, so
right.
The whole doing the mock, trials for the cross-examination and what they're going to ask and everything like that. So, it's tough. So it's something that if I was able to avoid, I would have, and that's why we went the route we went in.
Right. And I think all of us were, at least satisfied to see that this guy was going to be away for a vast majority of his life at the least.
Yep.
Right. And with the possibility of life if he continues to, be a menace inside the system as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, he'll definitely do his 25 years. Hopefully he can do up to life. Again, it was a pretty good sentence. People like that, commit murders and stuff like that, get that sentence or even less. So I was grateful for what we were able to work out.
Good. And DA Tierney's office has been great. We've been able to work very closely with DA Tierney on the PBA side with lobbying for stricter laws against, bad guys, trying to make sure that people are held accountable for their actions. Yep. So I have a lot of faith in that if DA Tierney's office felt this was the best approach as well, that it probably was.
Yeah, no, I trust them. They do a great job over there. They're very supportive. He's brought me into his office many times, and just to go over everything. Like, he doesn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that, but he personally wanted to let me know that he's aware of everything going on in this and what the best course of action.
Yeah, and that's great to hear too, because we always pride ourselves on open lines of communication with all the elected officials. Yep. And DA Tierney is in a unique situation where he is an elected official, but he has a strong influence on law enforcement. He's the lead prosecutor, basically. Yep. So it's great to hear that he kept that line open with you.
Oh, yeah, all the time. If I had to give him a call for anything, he was always there to answer the phone call. Again, get brought into meetings to his office. He was always there, very, very nice to my family, and just, again, honest about everything.
Right.
So it was good.
Can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
It was good.
So now that the trial's over, you're still recovering. You're still a Suffolk County police officer. What's been going on now? What is your PT regimen like?
It's definitely, it lightened up a little bit, just I guess probably for insurance purposes. But it's I go to physical therapy twice a week. I go for it's an hour. It's an hour each of those times. That's thanks to Dr. Voswinkle, because normally physical therapy's one-on-one with a physical therapist for a half hour, but this whole time he pushes and for me to get the hour. So I still get my hour from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. So I'm grateful for that. I see Dr. Voswinkle probably about every 3 to 4 weeks. I see my orthopedic probably about every month or two. I see the MEU, the police doctor, about once a month, and just, again, working to get better.
Do you see the progress? Because I know your right leg was paralyzed for
a little. Yeah.
Okay. So do you see like a week by week or a month by month or over a stretch, like progress in your own body and your own leg and everything?
From day one till now, definitely. Again, I wasn't even able to get out of the hospital better, move my leg. So I've definitely made great improvement. I'm able, to hobble around, as I call it.
Right.
But I went through my ups and downs with it. Like, sometimes I would go 3-4 months and it's like, hey, I'm still the same. And then like a couple months go by, it's, oh, hey, I am doing a little better. So it does have like, it's like a roller coaster with it. You have good days, you have bad days. I'm still dealing with, I don't even know what the medical term for it is I call it a brain to leg disconnect. So like, I don't have much feeling in my right leg. It's always numb and tingly, and I'm very, I'm heat sensitive. So outside when it starts getting nice, taking a shower, it just kind of burns. I don't feel it working sometimes. Like if I go to do, like a squat, or if I fall on the ground or I'm on the floor and I try to pick myself up, most people can pick themselves up with their left or their right leg or both, or use both. It really depends on the situation. I can't engage my right leg. So like if I'm down on the ground, I won't be able to get up if you like take away my good leg.
For like a normal person, like it's like almost like instinctual or natural to just get up off the floor. But you're saying basically that you can't like basically tell your right leg like, hey, help me up.
Yeah, no, it just doesn't work. There's that big disconnect. I can't do like an even leg squat. So if you do two legs, you squat down, you get up. I favor my left side so much. I'm probably like 70-80% on my left leg, and then my right leg comes up a little bit. It's very shaky. I'm definitely atrophied a lot in the leg. But it's definitely that communication between the mind and the leg is definitely still impacting me greatly. That I'm hoping it gets better. I really am, But that's probably something that hasn't really improved much even from the beginning.
Right. Now, do you find that when you are trying to work on that leg, do you kind of gain feeling back as you're doing your PT? Like, do you feel progress throughout a PT session at all?
Not really.
No.
It's funny. My physical therapist all the time, like, okay, where do you feel this now? And I'm like, oh, I feel it over here. She's like, well, you're not supposed to feel it there.
Wrong answer.
Yeah, basically wrong answer. So I guess I try so hard to do things that I actually engage other muscles that normally aren't supposed to be used for
so
that
you're
activity.
overcompensating in one area.
Yes. So I'm using muscles that aren't supposed to be used to lift up your leg or move it around, but I am to get it to go where I want it to do. So I've definitely had to adapt and improvise a lot of the things, I do. Like when I get up out of this chair later, usually people use both their legs. I'm just going to stand up with my left leg because I kind of adapted to my way of life of how I have to do things. So I don't have to kind of fall behind. I'm just trying to go about life like normal.
Right. Yeah, your left leg's probably getting jacked.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah. It's also starting to hurt too because now I'm compensating too much. Now my left knee hurts a little bit. So it has its plus and minus. Yeah, I'm getting a little stronger on that side, but things are starting to hurt.
Yeah. Right. Now, so now that that's over, you're going through your PT. What's everyday life like for you? I know, with the kids at home, obviously you're not working, as a full-time police officer yet. Yep. You're still home. Your wife's working, so you're kind of like Mr. Mom right now at home?
That's it.
Yeah.
Daddy daycare. The wife, when we had our last daughter, she ended up taking a lot of time off. She actually just went back to work like last month, but she's only doing it part-time. She's working a day or 2 weeks, so she's still very much around now to help out as she's kind of always been. But I'm just stay-at-home dad, take care of my two kids. My two daughters. It's honestly the greatest thing. It's the greatest job ever.
Right.
We always say being a Suffolk County Police Officer is the greatest job ever, but I'll say being taking care of my kids is the best job.
Right, and it's great that your kids are gonna have, God willing, you make a full recovery, right? Because there's still that outside possibility, right? Yep. So God willing, you make that full recovery, but at least when your kids grow up, they'll have those memories of dad being home. Yeah. And these are going to be a lot of their core childhood memories of having you around.
I'm definitely grateful. My first daughter, again, I worked a lot of overtime. We worked a lot. As police officers, we work a lot. A lot of overtime.
And you go to work to make money. Why not do it at time and a half?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I did miss a lot of things. I missed her, her crawling. I missed her first steps. I missed a lot of things. So now with my youngest, I'm happy that I'm home, that I haven't missed a thing.
Yeah, that's
and it's great.
That's awesome, right?
It's definitely very stressful. Don't get me wrong. I give credit to any parent that stays home with their kids full time, because it definitely can be very stressful and overwhelming of a job, but it's a very important job.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to hear that you're at least making the most of your time at home and doing the right thing as a father, spending the time with your kids.
Because, you have to. I always want to be present. I just want to be the best dad I can be.
Yeah, and you don't get that time back.
No, and a lot of people, again, working a lot. Most people do not get this opportunity I have. So yes, a very bad thing happened to me, but I'm making the most out of the situation. I'm trying to look at the brighter side of, yes, I was shot and injured bad, but now I'm home with my kids. So I try to look at the other side,
Right. Adjust and adapt and always do the best you can for yourself and your family.
Yep, for sure.
It's great to hear. But before we wrap up, do you have any closing remarks? Anything you want to let other cops on the job know? Anything you want to let people in the public know that maybe they didn't necessarily think about prior?
Just for other police officers, don't become complacent. Just always be on edge. Anything can happen. You never know. Safety's the most important thing. And then for the public, police officers are out there to do their job. They're not bad people. There's a couple bad apples out there, of course, in any job, but they're usually just out there to do their job, and everyone wants to get home to their family. So, for people to not bombard them as much as they've been lately.
Right. No, that's a perfect message, Mike. And we thank you for coming on, and we appreciate everything that you've done for the people of Suffolk County, because you were a very active police officer fighting crime, but prior to your injury. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story, Mike.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys
appreciate
having
it,
me here.
Mike. Thanks.
Thank you.